Good morning, Sedona. It is Saturday, June 8th, 2024, and this is Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, Red Rock Country's radio magazine, heard every Saturday at this time on KAZM 106.5 FM and 780 AM Mellow Mountain Radio. And we're also live streamed at mellowmountainradio.com. I'm your host, Stephen Hanks, and every Saturday morning since we launched this show in early February, you've been listening, hopefully, to a radio show that each week explores all the fascinating aspects of life in Sedona and the Verde Valley and engages with intriguing personalities from all walks of life in our area. Today's show and all of my shows during June are being sponsored by an outstanding Camp Verde-based insurance agent, Karen Cole of State Farm Insurance, who throughout the Verde Valley in northern Arizona protects the things you value and the people you love. Like a good neighbor, Karen and State Farm are there. My producer behind the glass is the always reliable Ryan Thompson. So Ryan, did you survive the heat this week?
Barely.
Yeah. How was it in the station? I mean, it's nice and cool in the studio right now.
Yeah. So I mean, we have equipment we have to keep cool. That's the upside.
Right.
So.
Right. Were you here all week in the
Yeah.
studio? Yeah, really busy. There's a lot of construction going on at this station. Really good stuff happening.
I was a one-man wrecking crew.
Oh my God. Yeah. Ryan, I'm really excited about this show, not just because it's sports related, which you know I love, but because it's about golf, which is a sport I'm always trying to get better at. And as most golfers know, this can be the most frustrating sport on the planet. I do not have a lot of patience or a good temper. And when I play golf, all those bad qualities come out in me. It can be the most frustrating sport unless you're Donald Trump and you can take 20 mulligans on every hole because after all, they let you do it. But I digress. Ryan, have you ever played golf?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? You're
I'm a
into
big
it?
golfer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where did you play? Up in Phoenix?
Yeah,
down in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. What's your handicap? Do you even know it?
No, I go for fun.
Yeah.
I'm more of like a social golfer and have
Just
a couple
go
drinks.
out there with a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
You ever play solo?
No.
No, that's good. I do that once in a while because I don't have any friends. No,
A couple more years, I think I'm going to start doing that.
That's so we're going to learn all about golf today from my guest in the studio. But before we introduce them and start talking golf, it's time once again for our top of the show segment, Stephen Sedona Scene, when I tell my audience about a few fascinating events happening over the following week in Sedona and the Verde Valley. So, folks, almost every Thursday, the past few months at the Hub at Posse Grounds Pavilion, local residents have been experiencing Fiddler on the Rock. Not Fiddler on the Roof, Fiddler on the Rock. A one-man violin concert from award-winning and classically trained symphony soloist Tyler Carson. But on Tuesday, June 11th, this coming Tuesday, the pavilion will host what promises to be an electrifying event celebrating Tyler's 5th year of performing concerts in Sedona. Tyler's shows feature original world music compositions of popular cover songs played utilizing a loop pedal, special effects, and even a horn violin. Audiences will also hear Tyler sing during the performance, which is pretty remarkable given he's had to recover from losing his speaking voice to spasmodic dysphonia over a decade ago. And if you don't know what that is, it's a chronic neurological disorder that causes involuntary spasms in the muscles of the voice box or the larynx. So that he's singing along to himself is pretty incredible. Fiddler on the Rocks happens this Thursday at the Hub at Posse Grounds from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Tickets are $25 at the door for adults and $10 for kids under 12, or $10 for kids under 12 are admitted free, but nobody will be turned away for lack of funds. Again, that's Tuesday, June 11th, and bring your own blanket or low folding chair. For more information, go to tylercarsonmusic.com/Sound of Sedona. Now, although this event is more than a week away, I wanted to highlight it on both this week's and next week's shows. On Wednesday, June 19th, from 2 to 4 p.m., the Sedona Public Library, in partnership with the Sustainability Alliance Environmental Justice Team, will present Celebrating Juneteenth Freedom Day. As many of you know, Juneteenth, National Independence Day, commemorating the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in Texas on June 19, 1865, became a federal holiday in 2021. This will be an afternoon of remembrance as the event honors the delayed emancipation of enslaved African Americans. The program will commemorate resilience, progress, and the ongoing journey toward equality for all people, and includes a public panel discussion and Q&A featuring respected and accomplished Verde Valley residents. The moderator will be Reverend Anthony Muaswa Johnson of the Sedona Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and the discussion will include 4 panelists, including my good friend Camilla Ross, producer, director, playwright, and actor, and president of the Emerson Theater Collaborative that presents a number of shows every year here in Sedona and the Verde Valley. For information and questions, contact sedonalibrary.org. So, on to the golf discussion, and now I want to introduce my special guests this morning on a special golf episode of Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, Heather Risk and Mika Felice. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having us, Stephen.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. So Heather Risk is the head golf professional and the director of instruction at the Oak Creek Country Club in the village of Oak Creek. Heather is a Class A LPGA professional, and her passion is for teaching golf, which shows in her preparation and enthusiasm in her lessons and the results that her students achieve. With more than 20 years of teaching, Heather has taught men and women of all levels of abilities, and she uses the V1 coaching system for her video lessons and provides video instruction online, and you'll have to explain what the heck that is at some point. Mika Felice has been a resident of Sedona since 1990. That's like 10 years before the first time I came here. You've been here a while. And he's a Sedona Red Rock High School graduate. After attending the University of Arizona, he returned to Sedona and began his career in the golf industry in 2005 at Oak Creek Country Club. Working, it's so like incestuous here, right, with these golf club things. He worked at the club as an assistant golf professional. Then he became the head golf pro at Sedona Golf Resort in 2016 and has held that position ever since. And he says he finds great satisfaction in teaching golf to beginners and juniors. And before the show, I found out, and this was really interesting because I've recently been a coach at Red Rock High School, that Mika coached the Red Rock High School golf team for 10 years, he said?
Yes, 10 years, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So I had a topic I wanted to start with originally, but given the intense heat, as I mentioned with Ryan earlier this week in Sedona, as the club pros on your courses, what's your strategy when we have weather like this with the course, with the golfers? What advice do you give them about playing and dealing with the heat? Why don't we start with you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to water and ice. Just making sure everybody is prepared for the heat. Making sure our staff is hyper aware of anybody that may be showing some signs of heat distress out there, including our employees too. Those guys are out there working in the heat all day. Right. So telling guests to catch shade, making sure they're iced up, making sure the beverage cart's going around there with, just water.
Yeah. Do you ever have days where it's going to be a certain temperature, like you check in the morning, that you close down completely, or do you just stop at a certain time of day?
No, I mean, we're always aware of what the weather's going to be.
Yeah.
And so, we know when we need to be on the lookout.
Right.
And on days where it's hot, the course will kind of close itself sometimes,
right.
especially in the afternoons. So, but there's always some guys out there that are going to try it no matter what. They came all the way to Sedona to play, right. and so they're going to give it a shot no matter if it's 120 or
right.
40 degrees, So
on those days, it'll be the opposite of Field of Dreams. People won't come.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. So what about you, Heather, over at Oak Creek? What's your strategy with dealing with heat?
All the same as what Micah said. I do think that it might be a tad cooler on the golf course with the grass. Than what you're seeing in town or on the blacktop.
Right. Yeah.
I would say it's a good maybe 10 degrees cooler sometimes.
Yeah.
And if we just encourage people to stay in the shade, stay in their cart when they can in the cool. Drink lots of water, probably even the day before you come play. The more water you drink the day before, the better off you are.
Are there more beers being sold when the carts come around on those days than normal? Or
I would hope maybe not, because drinking is going to dehydrate you pretty
good.
good.
Right, that's right. Although I've found when I played, I know that you're going to look askance at me when I say this, but it's really true. Times that I've played and I've had a really mediocre front nine, I will have a beer after the first nine, and then for some reason I play great the back nine. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a loosening up process.
I agree with that. I think that it's true for some, maybe not everybody, but I tell my dad if he doesn't even have a couple beers before we play, I'm not playing with him. So he plays much better after a couple.
There you go. So before we get into a real intense conversation about golf, which I only want to do to get tips on improving my game, this is why we're here. I mean, right. I'm just kidding. I like each of you to tell our audience a bit about your course, what makes it special to play, and any interesting things that you can tell people who may not have played it, who may be interested in coming to Sedona to visit and play golf. So Heather, let's start with you with Oak Creek Country Club. What's the deal with it?
It was designed in 1968 by Robert Trent Jones Jr. and Sr., which is pretty rare. Usually it's just one or the other, but both of them. Mm-hmm. It's very traditional tree-lined golf course, and that's one thing with the heat. We have lots of trees over at Oak Creek instead of Sedona is pretty wide open.
Right.
It's pretty basic link-style course. It's pretty fantastic. The grass is green and lush, and like I said, maybe a little cooler.
Yeah, and you got a nice driving range, which is right next to the clubhouse, and putting greens. And what do you think is the most interesting hole at that course?
Definitely number 13 is our signature hole.
My lucky number.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little par 3. It sets back into the Red Rocks. Actually, there's several beautiful views on the golf course, but number 13 is our signature hole.
Yeah. I don't know how you can get away with beautiful views when you're in an open area like a golf course in Sedona. I mean, the rocks, especially at Oak Creek, because you've got Bell Rock and
you feel like you're
Rock,
inside the rocks.
Really?
They're absolutely beautiful.
So how about Sedona Golf Resort?
Sedona Golf Resort, was originally built in 1988, kind of as a centerpiece for a development project that was going in there, designed by Gary Panks. But really the mastermind behind the whole operation was John Benzel.
Who is he?
John Benzel, a real big mentor of mine. And he unfortunately passed away in 2020, but he came in from Colorado with his family. They had a big goal in mind in order to get a new golf course built in that really showcases the scenery and the landscape of Sedona. So they came in, they mapped out the golf course and how it might work with the subdivision coming in. So the golf course was built first, and then the housing and everything kind of came in after that. Just a super beautiful area, and it really takes advantage of that area to get great views and things like that.
Is it a part of the hotel, or is it separate from the hotel?
No, despite the name Sedona Golf Resort, it's been in and out of that over the years. So at one point it was connected to a resort and a spa. Now the spa and hotel is owned by the Hilton.
Right.
We are, right up against the ridge on Sedona Golf Resort. They use our name, so there's a lot of confusion about that. But it's basically just a hub for golf. And if you're coming to town, that Sedona Golf Resort name gets you thinking about staying there, playing there, bringing the family.
Right.
And it's a great place to come and stay.
So the gentleman that you mentioned was responsible for building it. When did he become a mentor? Did you meet him after you were hired, or did you know him before?
I actually, as I said, I was at Oak Creek Country Club for many years, and he was a playing member at that point. He had retired, so played a lot of golf with Mr. Benzel. He was very instrumental in getting me over to Sedona Golf Resort. Incredible instructor. He used to be my instructor, here and there. And I know a lot of people in town know him and his legacy for that. So we try and do him justice and yeah, we're always thinking about John for sure.
Yeah. So tell our listeners about that famous hole that everybody talks about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole course kind of leads you up the mountain to hole number 10. Hole number 10 is the most photographed par 3 in the Southwest. If you get up there yourself, you'll see why. Got a really great framed view of Cathedral Rock as you hit towards it.
Yeah.
And the hole is not easy. It's a longer par 3. It kind of we get a lot of hole-in-ones and stuff up there and stuff.
Do you really?
It's cool how the hill on the left will kind of trickle down onto the green. So a lot of people miss the green on the left, and all of a sudden they're seeing their ball roll down into the hole.
Wow.
So it can be a real big memory for a lot of people. And I mean, thousands of photographs are taken up there each year. So
that's great. That's great. So a question for both of you. When golfers come to you for instruction, whether they're beginners or the more experienced players or anything in between, what are the couple, 3 main skills or techniques they come to you that they feel like they want to work on? Or do you just watch just the way they play and suggest what skills they should work on? Heather, why don't we start with you?
I think across the board, everybody comes and wants more consistency and hit the ball farther. Those are the 2 things that I hear the most.
Yeah, it sounds easy, but it's not.
I do think that the foundation of the golf swing, your setup, your grip, your stance, those kinds of things, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned tour player, those are things that we're going to look at right in the beginning because, how you hold the golf club influences the direction of the golf ball
Right.
more than anything else we do.
Right.
That being said, I don't think there's a perfect golf swing out there. I've seen a lot of goofy golf swings that make the ball go very well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. You just have to figure out what works best for you.
Exactly.
And we work on whatever that issue might be.
Yeah.
I try really hard to keep it simple. We're just going to do 1 or 2 things, and you get too many things going. And I also think that a lot of people have a hard time with thinking that they do have to have it perfect. And so they have 45 thoughts in their head of all the many, many things that have to go happen.
And as we all know in sports, think long, you think wrong.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's one of the problems with golf is that ball's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's not reactionary. So you get lots and lots of things going on before you swing.
Yeah.
And if you can just think of it kind of like a baseball.
Yep.
Baseball's flying at your head. You don't think about it. You just swing and...
When I first when friends when I was a teenager first took me out to a golf driving range, and I didn't know how to swing a golf club really. I mean, obviously I watched golfers on TV. I grew up with Arnold Palmer and Gary Player and all those, Jack Nicklaus and all those guys. But when I got up to the driving range and I was teeing off, I was swinging like Willie Mays would swing a baseball bat, just winding up and killing it and not knowing where the heck it was going to go. Not exactly the way you do it. Micah, what do you find, especially with beginners, what do you think they have the most trouble with? Do they have trouble with woods or irons? Or I know I still, to this day, am intimidated by using the driver. It's hard for me to keep a ball consistently straight with a driver, although I love a 3-wood and a 5-wood in the fairway usually works for me. Nice. But what do you find is the most difficult for people?
I think you nailed it, Stephen. I mean, the driver swing, I get a lot of questions about that, specifically people who slice it, so for a right-handed golfer, you hit it from the left to the right, the ball starts at your target, it's looking good, then all of a sudden it makes a right-hand turn and it's off the golf course. So people just putting side spin on the driver and other clubs too, for that matter. But just trying to get the more of a straight ball flight is what I see people really striving for. But to each their own. Some people have it opposite. But yeah, the driver for sure. And the reason that is because the driver's the longest club in your bag. So the head of the driver is the furthest away from your hands. It's harder to control. just where it is in space, because it's a light club. As soon as you take it back, you can't see it anymore, and it's up to your hands and your muscle memory to kind of, figure out where that head is and if it's going to hit the ball flush or not.
Right.
And it can be tougher the longer and the lighter the club is. So that's why a lot of people hit their wedges and stuff a lot more solid, because it's heavier. It's a little easier to control. You feel it when you take it away. So, yeah, for sure, the driver and the slice specifically.
No, I know the answer to this question probably is going to, part of it's going to be, well, obviously, if you have a lot of experience and you play a lot, you become comfortable with how the distance you get on the ball when you use an iron. And I know as somebody who plays off and on, even though I've been playing off and on for years, I still have a hard time judging based on how far I can hit a ball with an iron, what iron to use, what club to use when from the green. How give us some advice on how people can approach that if they have a problem with it.
Well, I see most folks hitting iron approaches, leaving it short.
Is that right?
Yeah, leaving it short because one time, back 15 years ago, they hit a 4-iron 200 yards. And so, it's 200 yards, I'm going to hit the 4-iron. Mm-hmm. And that was, they're basing their whole perspective on their plan on a one shot they hit, on a perfect situation, and it's not always a perfect situation when you're in the rough or if your ball's lying down on the grass a little deep and things like that. So I always see people kind of thinking they're a little bit more macho than they are and going for that shorter club when they should be maybe hitting a wood in that instance for more consistent results. So I think what golfers really need to do is kind of look at an average of what they hit each club. A lot of people don't know, how far they even hit their clubs. They don't, I used to always write it down like, hey, I hit my 7-iron this and I hit my 8-iron that. And then that's what I would base all my decisions on the golf course on. So yeah. And when you're on the range, you can't always tell how far you're hitting the ball.
Right.
So,
cause you might be more relaxed than you would be when you're actually on there playing.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Heather, just to continue on that, is there a rule of thumb on how many yards each iron, the ball will go with each iron depending? So let's say you hit a 9-iron 120. And I don't know if that's really too short for a 9-iron. Sounds like the range, right? Mm-hmm. So as you go down the numbers, is there a certain amount of yardage difference? So if a 9-iron goes 120, an 8 might go 20 yards more, and a 7 might go. Is there anything like that?
Of course, yes, and that's the way the clubs were designed. They're about a quarter to a half inch shorter or longer, going up the ladder
numbers,
there. Right. In reality, I think it was supposed to be more like 10-yard difference.
Really?
So if you hit a 9-iron 120, you'd hit an 8-iron 130, and that way. And again, everybody is very different, and I stress this with all of my students. Just because one person hits a 9-iron 120, some might hit a 9-iron 70, and some might hit a 9-iron 200 yards. Everybody's different, and you just find out what's good for you and try real hard not to hit the same as your buddy, because that's not necessarily. And
that's obviously the benefit of trying to get out there as much as possible, even if it's to the driving range, to get the muscle memory or the knowledge of what you can do with each club.
And it really doesn't matter how far you hit it, as long as you know what that number is, right? It's not about the distance. It's really about hitting center of the face and keeping the ball in play.
When you're hitting a ball that you want to get on the green, going back to what you said about people overshooting, do you find that a lot of people who are maybe not that experienced think about getting the ball near the cup on that shot, or do you recommend trying to always get to the front of the green so the ball will roll up and do the work? I don't know who wants to.
Yeah, I had a great piece of advice given to me years ago, and it was you should aim for the center of the green.
Really?
No matter where that pin is. For the best results, if you hit it the center of the green, even if the pin's on the right and you hit it in the center, you're never going to have more than a 30-foot, 25-foot putt. and you'll be putting. That's the big thing.
See, this is why I had you on the show today, because that's a great tip.
That's a tip from John Benzel.
That's a tip.
For sure.
Because a lot of people will try to shoot for where the pin is, right?
Yeah, and golf architects know that, so they'll put them over in the corners, then they'll tuck them behind bunkers and put in false fronts. So if you hit the front of the green, it's going to roll off the front.
Right.
So golf is tricked up like that, and golfers love that. But it's good to aim for the middle, and 9 times out of 10, you'll have more success that way.
That is great advice. Well, we're going to come back to this conversation in a second, but I need to acknowledge my great sponsor. The sponsor of this show and all the shows until the end of June is Karen Cole, State Farm Insurance agent based in Camp Verde. I'm sure everyone out there would agree that it feels good when we make the right decision, like shooting the ball to the middle of the green, right? Like when you choose the perfect song for a special moment, or when you choose to have a good night's rest after a hectic day. It's all good. As good as making the right choice on insurance. That's why Karen Cole is a State Farm agent and serves the Verde Valley in northern Arizona to help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. Karen will explain everything about your coverage with State Farm so you know what to expect if the unexpected happens. With Karen Cole, it is easy to make the right decision. And I know that because Karen handles my home insurance. She is one insurance agent who is all about protecting the things you value and the people you love. So contact Karen at www.kcoleinsurance.com or call 928-567-3374. Like a good neighbor, Karen Cole and State Farm are there. So, getting back, there's one of the guests that we wanted to have today, but he couldn't make it because he's really busy handling the desk at his golf course with all the people that come into play. On Saturday is Willie Dark, who I pronounce his last name right. Is it Darky? Is it? No, go ahead. Is it Darky?
Pretty sure it's Dart.
Dark, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. But he has an E, so it could, at the end. Anyway, Willie Darky is the club pro at Canyon Mesa Country Club, which is another golf course that's not that far from where I live in the village of Oak Creek. But it is a really cool 9-hole course, and the reason why it's kind of special to me is the first time I came to Sedona on a vacation with my family, I think it was like 2002, I wanted to get a little golfing because I saw there was so many courses here. But I didn't have a lot of time, and I didn't, I was going to go solo. So I found out about Canyon Mesa Country Club that was a 9-hole course. So I went to play it and had a really good time. They're all pretty much all par 3s, right?
One par 4.
One par 4. All par 3s, one par 4. But when you get to the 9th hole, this blew me away. You have to, after you're off the 8th green, you walk up a little flight of stairs, you make a turn, and it's uphill, and you go up to the tee at the 9th hole, and right straight down the fairway behind the green is a beautiful view of some red rocks. Do you know what rock it is?
Courthouse Butte.
It's Courthouse Butte?
Yep.
You'd think, since it so impressed me, I would know what the rock
Come
was.
on, Steve.
I still have to do a test on what all the names of the
You're
rocks
still
are.
a Sedona newbie.
I'm a newbie. Yeah, it's only 3 years. But anyway, I mean, that was just so impressive. It's like it's such a great view. Anyway, so Willie's the club pro there, and Willie grew up in Michigan and was actually a hockey player and didn't start playing golf seriously until he was in his 30s, when the master golf professional at a driving range he visited frequently asked Willie to give him a hand. So Willie graduated from the PGA program 5 years later. After 9 years as an assistant professional in Michigan and Mirabel Golf Club in Scottsdale, Willie became the first head professional director of golf at the beautiful 9-hole Canyon Mesa Country Club. So Willie's been there for 11 years and going strong, and he handles everything. I'm sorry he's not here because I actually wanted to ask him a hockey question, but, we won't get into that because that could take us off the rails. But one thing, so I'm sorry Willie couldn't be with us. I hope you'll go on the website for Canyon Mesa Country Club, and if you're not booking Sedona Golf Resort or Oak Creek Country Club and you want to play a 9-hole course, this is the one to do. And by the way, Willie told me before the show that the website Golf Pass says that Canyon Mesa Country Club is the fifth best short course in America. So that's a pretty good ranking. I don't know much about Golf Pass, but I assume it's pretty impressive. A lot of people use it to find out about courses. They're shaking their heads, so I guess that's a yes. Yeah. So anyway, so I want to get back to our questions with my guests here. So I wanted to ask you about the older age demographic in the area. When with Sedona and Oak Creek having a lot of older residents, a lot of whom play golf, are there any special things that you do when you work with older golfers? And what would you consider like an older golfer age range? Like what age does it get to be where there's certain things that they need to do or not do? Or you want to handle that, Heather?
Sure.
Without insulting our senior citizens.
For sure. You know, best thing about golf is that I believe that you can play till you're 95 years old. You know, we have several members who are in their 90s who are out there playing 2-3 days a week.
Wow.
So it's a lifelong game. So there's something there that is good for our older generation.
Right.
I would say that the best part about that is that we can shorten our swing up just a little bit. You don't have to kill the golf ball. There are many things that you can do. I would say stretching. If you want to hit the ball farther, if you want to hit the ball better, go to a yoga class.
Yeah, no, I was going to, I mean, it will help keep an older person in shape,
Correct.
but you kind of have to be in shape to play well.
Yeah,
You know?
both are good.
Yeah. How about you, Micah?
Yeah, I mean, golf is a game for life. You can play it as a youth. You can play it all the way through your working days and well past retirement. And it can help keep you young, keep you active, get you out in the sun. And Sedona, we specialize in senior golf. We always get asked, hey, do you have any senior rates? And I say, yeah, that's all we have. So yeah, we see that a lot here in other retirement communities. Arizona is a hot spot for retirement, from top to bottom. So golf is central to that. And it's simply because it's a game you can play all through your life. Each golf course is set up for different levels too. You've got different tee boxes, different distances you can play from, all the way back like the young guys like to do, or moving on up and playing some of the forward tee sets and enjoying it. And we even see some seniors that really loved playing and can't quite do the whole thing, play 9 holes, or they'll just play a few holes and then ride the rest and just putt. So you can still get out there and enjoy the golf course, enjoy the camaraderie and nature, just like you did, 40 years ago. So,
especially when it comes to the older age group, what do you find is the most frequent injuries that people get when they're playing, and how can you prevent those, and how do you treat them? They may be different depending on the person, right?
Yeah, uniquely, when you're in the golf shop, you always know what somebody's injury is because they're going to come up and talk to you about it. And I see the most, probably shoulder injuries is probably the big one. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily from golf. It's just general wear and tear that might prohibit you from playing golf. And those shoulder injuries take a while to recover from. Or
they might have one already existing that they didn't realize, and then
for sure,
a swing will throw it out of whack.
For sure, you're losing the cushioning, in that joint over and the shoulder moves in so many different directions, and it's very heavily utilized in the golf swing. And I see folks that'll have like hip replacements and stuff. They're back on the golf course relatively fast.
Yeah.
But that shoulder can be a nagging injury for sure.
Yeah. What about any like pulled hamstrings, calves? Does that happen often?
No,
not really. Yeah.
See more joint back,
lower back,
structural injuries rather than muscular injuries.
Yeah.
For sure.
And like Michael was saying, I think it's more about not necessarily from golf. It's from doing other things, and then it affects their golf game.
How much does weight training, if you do certain kind of weight training, help? And one of the reasons I'm asking this is it helpful are the wrists so important in the golf swing that having strong wrists as opposed to just having strong biceps, triceps, whatever is important part of improving distance, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, I think Heather and I are pretty well versed in this because we're both very active and do a lot of exercise. So I see a lot of benefit in working the legs, especially, as well as the back.
Right.
And that's not, the lower spine. I mean, even if you're at the gym doing some pull downs and pull ups and things like that, that's going to help you with your golf swing. But there's a diminishing point of returns where you might get a little bit too muscular or lose some flexibility. Losing flexibility is a big detractor of the golf swing.
Yeah. When you're out there and you're with people, if you're instructing them or you're just out there watching some golfers, can you tell pretty soon if they have an issue based on how they're swinging, following through, if they're stopping like before the swing follow through happens, that kind of thing?
At the beginning of every lesson, I always ask about injuries, about surgeries, things like that, before we start swinging.
Yeah.
We don't want to put anybody in a position that they're physically not able to do or something that's going to hurt. And there is limited rotation, depending on neck flexibility, shoulder issues, but the golf swing can compromise for all of that.
Yeah.
We can talk about it if you have a new left knee replacement and, us turning onto that knee, we can make some accommodations to that so it won't hurt.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about women in golf. I mean, what over the years that you've been doing this, have you seen more and more women coming out and playing? And
for sure.
Yeah.
That percentage has definitely risen. I would say that COVID brought everybody out of the woodworks.
Is that right?
Yeah, we saw a definitely increase, especially here in Arizona. It was deemed, I can't remember the word, but we were open for business the entire time for COVID.
Because you were out in the open,
yeah,
you couldn't.
It was one of the few things people could do.
Right.
They'd check in and give them a golf cart and
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So it definitely increased, and women in golf has increased over the years.
Yeah, but not just in numbers, but how about in ability, as Micah, what are you seeing?
Yeah, for sure. That too.
Yeah.
I mean,
They've
the
always been
more
good.
you play, the better you'll get in almost every instance. And golf in general has tried to make golf more approachable for women. We used to see a lot of women that were shy about golf, and they didn't want to go because they didn't want anybody to see their swing or judge them. And now that stigma is definitely leaving. So we're seeing more golf friendly designs out there for women. The clubs are better, for slower swing speeds. That's for women and for seniors as well. So yeah, it's in golf's best interest to get as many demographics involved as possible. So the PGA and LPGA specifically has definitely put out some mandates and changed some things in golf to make golf more approachable and more fun for women to come out, for sure.
I've played in a bunch of the scrambles over at Sedona Golf Resort. Do you recommend people do that for general practice and fine-tuning their game, or even just doing it if that's the only way they can play?
Yeah, 100%. So, Steven, you're talking about a scramble. That's where you kind of have a team and you're trying to move the golf ball through the course as a team rather than putting the onus on the individual to play their own ball the whole time.
Right. I'm glad you're explaining how that works.
Yeah, because not everybody probably knows about it. But,
right.
You'll all hit from the tee, you'll pick the best one, and then everybody hit from there and just kind of repeat that process till you have one score completed for the whole. And we see, a lot of corporate events, a lot of charity events done in scrambles just to make sure that it's approachable for everybody. Even people who have never played before can have a great time playing in a scramble.
Absolutely.
And we do Sunday afternoons. We do 9-hole scrambles. That it's probably our best event as far as a repeating event we do. Sunday afternoon we'll go out and play a 9-hole scramble at Sedona Golf Resort.
Right. And the golf pro, who does
my
that?
assistant pro, Michael Pruitt.
Michael Pruitt, right?
He's really behind
Great
all
guy.
that. Yep. and he does a great job with it. And
Yeah.
and if you want to do that, give us a call. We'll get you right in.
And at Oak Creek, you've had scrambles with big, charity events. I remember, the Savco does every year. I think that's a scramble, isn't it?
Yes,
It's
it
a
is.
team
Yeah.
thing? Yeah.
Yep. Savco at the Marine Corps charity events.
Right.
We have definitely, it's probably the same as Sedona Golf Resort, lots of charity events. We also host the Sedona Open, which is a PGA event, and then the NAU Women's Invitational. So we have 20 teams from all over the country come in March and come and play golf.
Yeah.
But lots of scramble events. One thing I would like to say about that is there are all kinds of things for every golfer, for every level. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner all the way to a tour player. There's opportunity to be had at Sedona Golf Resort and at Oak Creek and Canyon Mesa.
Yeah.
We have the charity events and stuff like that. You have your scramble thing on Sunday. We have a Sunday couples. We do men's and ladies leagues, and we even have a group called the Rejects for golfers who were rejected out of the other events. So just about everything is available and you got to know why you play golf. Are you out there for the social event, for the sunshine, for the competition?
Right.
And all levels.
And by the way, I would like to point out that both Oak Creek Country Club and Sedona Golf Resort have really nice, excellent restaurants. That a lot of people, I know Oak Creek's place has really taken off recently with breakfast and brunch.
Yeah, the Oak Creek Bistro. They just they've been in a little over a year now, and they're doing a really good job.
That's great.
Really good job. Good community breakfast and lunch and.
Yeah, so you could make it like a whole morning. You can start at 6 and get out of there
you
at
go.
2 in the afternoon.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about clubs. So I know this is a big stumbling block for a lot of people, especially if they're not that experienced. How do you go about figuring out what the right clubs are, the size of the club, based on your level of experience, and how many clubs should you get? If you're starting, do you need all of the irons? Like, what's your take on that, Mike?
Well, there are a lot of variables
Yeah.
when it comes to the individual and their golf clubs. How tall they are. We take measurements on how tall they are, how fast their club head speed is, how high they hit the golf ball, what kind of grips they need. Or do they have, arthritis or something and need larger grips? And so, there are clubs of all different sizes, all the way from clubs you might use when you're 4 years old, to ladies clubs, seniors clubs, the clubs that professionals use. And even within that group, there's a lot of variables, like Bryson DeChambeau uses clubs that are all the same length, and that's what he finds works best for him. So, consulting with a local PGA or LPGA pro is really important. And we usually host club manufacturers for fitting days where they'll send their own crew up and take appointments, and they'll tell you exactly what you need. And you can take that information and do with it what you want, whether it's order it right there or wait for the right time. So
And those are free events. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
I have to assume that there's a lot of new technology like what they're doing in baseball now, where they can monitor, like the miles per hour that somebody hit the ball, or the spin rate of the baseball. Is the technology in golf similar these days, where that's how they can figure out what you should use based on that?
Yeah, 100%. And each club manufacturer is going to say the new stuff hits it further than the old stuff, but we find that to be a little overstated.
Marketing.
A little bit of marketing goes into that. So if
you guys are saying that, I'm going to believe you.
Well, Steven, if you haven't upgraded in 20 years, you need to upgrade. So the incremental upgrades, year to year, I'd recommend not buying a new driver every year. It's not going to really help you too much.
Especially if you haven't really done well with the one you have. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And if it's been 5 or 10 years since you've done that and gotten some new equipment, the new grooves in the irons are going to help you. The new technology in the woods is going to help you, and it'll be noticeable. But try not to fall into that pattern of just upgrading because there's something new and you've got, new golf club envy.
Yeah.
I talk about all the manufacturers all have the same technology.
Right.
Between Callaway and Ping and Titleist or whatever, if it looks good to you, it feels good, the monitor says that you're hitting it pretty well, then that's the club for you.
Go with that.
There's not one specific better than another.
Yeah. So what do you find when somebody's on the course, they hit the ball off the tee, they either end up in the rough or the sand traps? What's the hardest thing for people to become better at? I mean, I find that like sand trap is like something I haven't been able to master figuring out how to do that well. What do you think, Heather?
I would say the number one thing is to count to 10 before you hit the ball.
Right.
So the biggest issue when we get behind a tree or in the bunker or anywhere, a difficult shot, is that we're kind of upset that we're in that position.
Right.
And because of that, we hold our breath, we get tight, we swing harder, and our swing falls apart more because of our brain than because of the situation.
Great point.
The other thing, too, about bunkers specifically is, just pretend like you're sitting on grass. Make sure you swing and follow through and not so worry about the situation or having to do something different.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is to practice it. You go to the driving range and you hit balls on the driving range. You go to the putting green, you putt. But do you really practice those bunker shots?
Right.
So if you're playing 18 holes of golf, you've probably hit 4 bunker shots, which are very different than so.
Yeah.
Go out and practice those if you want to be better at them.
Yeah.
Take balls and hit them under trees and put them in the thicker grass and practice those shots and not just expect to know how to do them in the 3 or 4 times that you have happens on the golf course.
And put your ego away. Don't try and be a
Exactly.
hero.
Yeah.
You're not Tiger Woods out there. So
Well,
sometimes you need to just hit it back into the fairway and go from there.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, because picking up on Heather's point about counting to 10 before you do it, I'm sure there are people that when they're in a difficult position near a tree in the rough, and maybe they are, I don't know, 2 good shots away from the green, that they feel like they have to make that shot to the green right away, rather than say, okay, the next shot, maybe I'm going to be a couple over par if I do this, but just get the ball into the fairway instead of trying to get it back on the green. But I'm sure a lot of people don't think that way.
Solid contact is more important.
Yeah.
And I always think about the highest percentage shot. You're sitting in that situation. What's your highest percentage shot? And usually taking that 3-wood out of the grass behind a tree is not your highest percentage shot.
Yeah.
Bumping it back out to the middle of the green, highest percentage shot.
Yeah, that's great advice. So anything that we haven't touched on that you think would be important to tell our listeners?
I'd love to kind of give a shout out to just Sedona in general and the fact that we're such a great hub for golf year round. We're always open for golf. There's never a season where we take a break or close down. Like in Flagstaff, they've got to close for the winter. In Phoenix, they've got to close in October to oversee the golf course from the summer grass to the winter grass. They've got to use 2 different grasses down there. We don't have to do that up here with our unique climate. So Sedona's always open for golf, no matter what time of year it is. We'll deal with all 4 seasons, but they're relatively mild. We're always cooler than Phoenix in the summer.
Right, absolutely.
So we get a lot of folks from Phoenix coming up to beat the heat, even though it's still 90-something here. That's much better than 120, So we get a lot of winter traffic from folks up north that need to come down and play golf because they have got to put their clubs away at home if they live in Wisconsin or even just Flagstaff.
I was going to say, Flagstaff.
Yeah, so Sedona, we have always got people coming in to play golf. We've got the scenery, we've got the weather, and if you haven't done it, you should try it.
Yeah, go ahead, Heather.
I just want to give a shout out to all of our staff, our superintendents and our grounds crews that keep that grass on all of our golf courses. All 3 golf courses are in beautiful shape year round, I think that's really the advantage to other places, They kind of have a high and a low season and really our grounds crew keep the place moving and green year round.
Yeah.
And also to all of our staff, it takes a mighty crew to keep those golf courses running and in good shape and to present the the place for you to play.
Yeah. You may not know anecdotally the answer to this question. I don't know if you check in with people about this, but living where I am in the Village, which is basically a few blocks away from the course, the Oak Creek Country Club course, a lot of people in that part of the Village do a lot of walking. Early morning, they almost every day there's people, and it's not just walking dogs, it's walking for exercise, like my wife does it. And so have you experienced people walking around the course and realizing where they are, have started playing because of that, or joined because they're near the club?
I don't know about that. Maybe. They see, I think a lot of people see the green grass and think it's a park.
Right. And they wander in, think it's a walking area.
We love having our walkers and dog walkers on the golf course before the first tee time. As long as you stay on the cart path and you're out there before golf balls are in the air. In the afternoons and stuff, I do see people out there, but I worry because we do have golfers, and I don't want anybody to get hurt.
And golfers don't always hit it where they're trying to hit it.
Present company included.
They'll hit it 3 fairways over, and you don't know where that ball is coming from. So
that's right.
It's a tough thing, but we would, if someone sees that green grass and sees someone playing golf and they'd like to come out and try, I'm sure between all of us, we'd love to have them out.
You might not want to answer this because it would be maybe too political, but what's up with people that want to live on golf courses? I've never figured that out.
Oh man, don't get me started. I mean, it's great. The proximity to it's great. You look out your back window, you don't see another house. You see the golf course. You see the green.
Aren't they worried about balls coming through their
windows? Then you also see the golfers. You see the guys that are listening to music out there and drinking a lot of beer. And there's every now and then there's a ball that goes through a window, and just what happens in that case.
They come into your yard to get their ball.
Right.
And we see it a lot because we'll get the call, hey, there's my window's broken. And I'm like, call your insurance company. That's not our fault. You assume the risk when you're on the golf course.
Once you make that decision, you're going to live there. You got to take what comes, right?
Mowers at 4:30 in the morning.
That's right. Yeah. I just always found that to be real. I mean, I understand the appeal of it on some level. It's kind of cool. But, if I might think, well, it's good. It'll be nice to have a home right on the golf course, and that thrill might last for like 2 months before you start realizing it might not be the thing to do. So, anything else you think our listeners should know about your course and about golf in general, what they need to work on a regular basis?
One of the questions we get a lot, and I'm sure Micah gets it at his place, is which golf course should I play when I come to Sedona, or when I'm here? Which one should I play?
I didn't want to get into the competition level.
I'm going to say that we always stress, and I know that Micah and his crew over there, that you got to play all of them. If you get a chance, they are all very different, and it's a great opportunity to see the best real estate in Sedona.
Right. And you don't necessarily just have to, I don't want to take any business away from Willie, but you don't necessarily have to play at Canyon Mesa if you just want to play 9.
Right.
You can play 9 at your holes too.
Yeah, we'll even let you play 10.
They have a 10-hole range.
You can see the 10th hole.
Play 9 holes and hit up that famous 10th hole at the end.
It's like getting a dozen bagels. You get the 13th free, right? So that's great. It's really been great having you on the show. I mean, I've learned a lot, and you guys have been terrific. I really appreciate you being on here. If there's anything else you want to say to close out, feel free to do it.
No, just play golf. Take it up. It's a lot of fun. It's a sport you can play for the whole, for as long as you live. You can start at any time. You don't have to have played when you're a kid to enjoy it. And come out and just try it on the driving range. See how it goes. And yeah, you'll love it.
Yeah. Any advice about wardrobe? I wore my Greg Norman shirt just in honor of the show.
Very good.
Although I have a bunch of Ben Hogan's too. What you have any advice about wardrobe when you're on the course? Is it just based on weather?
Yeah, definitely based on weather. We try to keep golf open to everyone. I know that golf has been kind of in the past. They restrict a lot of, depending on what you're wearing. But we now allow jeans. We're okay wearing a T-shirt if you really need to. We'd rather not, but you can.
Right.
But we're not going to turn you away because of what you're wearing. We really want you to come out and play golf.
Do you find a lot of people at your courses purchasing stuff in the pro shop, as opposed to going online.
Sure. Especially those that are unprepared,
Yes.
that they come in, they go, I thought this was Arizona, and it's 35 degrees in February.
That's a good point.
And all of a sudden we've sold 20 jackets in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot. Guys just aren't packing correctly, and so we'll sell them some shorts in the summer, we'll sell them some jackets in the winter, and both courses are pretty fully loaded as far as golf shop gear goes.
Yeah, I've been in them. You got great stuff in there.
Yep, the Sedona Golf Resort Golf Shop, I'll pump that up, is super
Very
loaded
good.
with stuff for women specifically, and also for men, and the way these companies are going, everything's looking so cool right now with the prints they use and the materials they use for the weather. It's really important to get you the right gear, because you got to look good to play good.
Yep. You even I've seen some really good stuff at both of your places on the clearance rack, which is where I usually go. But so you don't have
Especially
people,
if you're 2X or
you're right,
extra small.
So you don't have people coming in there taking pictures of shirts and then going on Amazon because they think they can get it.
They won't have
cheaper.
the logo.
They won't have the logo.
Yeah, we sell that logo. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
that
that's
logo,
right. That's right.
Whether it's the Oak Creek Country Club, the Quail logo, or our Cathedral Rock logo, that sells the piece in a lot of ways. And so you can't get that anywhere else. You got to come in and get it.
Well, guys, that's such great information. I really appreciate you both being on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Great. So before we close, I want to give another shout out to my sponsor. Folks, switching is easy. We do it all the time. We switch on the lights. We switch TV channels. We switch golf clubs when we have to improve what we're using on the course. We sometimes switch up the foods we eat. But did you know that you can switch your insurance and also save with State Farm? In fact, State Farm agent Karen Cole, who serves the Verde Valley in northern Arizona, can switch your insurance coverage, whether home or auto, so you can start saving today. Karen and her team based in Camp Verde are ready to welcome anyone in the Sedona and Verde Valley area to the State Farm neighborhood. With Karen Cole, it's easy to switch and save. Just contact her at www.kcoleinsurance.com or call her at 928-567-3374. When you want the real deal, Karen will protect the things you value and the people you love. And like a good neighbor, Karen Cole and State Farm are there. Tune in again next Saturday morning, June 15th from 9 to 10 a.m. when the show theme will be Digging Archaeology in the Verde Valley with my in-studio guest from the Verde Valley Archaeological Center and Museum, Executive Director Monica Buckle, Board President Ed Goodwin, and Treasurer and former Executive Director Ken Zoll. They'll be here to talk about the variety of programs at the Archaeology Center and expand on their mission of conservation, preservation, and education. And as someone who was once the publisher and editor of an archaeology magazine for kids, I'm really looking forward to this one. Thanks again to my main man and producer, Ryan Thompson, and my show sponsor for the entire month of June, Karen Cole, insurance agent for State Farm Insurance based in Camp Verde. You'll want Karen as your agent because she protects the things you value and the people you love. By the way, tell your friends who couldn't hear the show today that they can listen to a podcast version anytime on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. You can also find Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks on Facebook and Instagram. And please email me with comments and questions to stephen@mellowmountainradio.com. This has been a great show today. Again, I want to thank my guests, Heather Riss and Mika Felice, for being here and talking about the great game of golf. Thank you for listening to Red Rock Country's radio magazine. I'll catch you all again next Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Have a great weekend, everyone.